Hello everyone, my name is Rob, welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. This is my round 17 NRL tips and predictions video. If you'd like to see how I got on last week, you can check the pinned comment down below. Without further ado, let's get started with this week. Starting off round 17, we have the Dragons at home against the Warriors, and starting with the Dragons, they currently sit in 15th place. Their form is 2 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 4 wins and 2 losses. They're also on a bye last week. In terms of availability, Jack Bird and Jack de Belin are expected to be back from injury, and Ben Hunt will be the only player back after State of Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, the Dragons have a 29% win rate, 76% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 86.7%. Moving on to the Warriors, they currently sit in 6th place on the ladder. Their form is 3 wins in the last 5, and their away record is 4 wins and 3 losses. They were also on a bye last week. In terms of squad availability, Dylan Walker, Edward Cossey, Rocco Berry and Tamare Martin are all expected back this round, and there are no Origin players to worry about this week. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 57% win rate, 80% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 88.3%. So the Dragons have been putting up some decent performances the last couple of weeks. Like, they've kind of come out of nowhere and won games that have been completely unexpected, especially against the Rabbitohs. There's that kind of life in them now. They lost a lot of it, but after sacking their coach, there's a little bit of life in them. I guess the culture around the team's a bit different, but right now, with the news about Ben Hunt, it just might throw things all over the place. The last time it happened for a big player leaving, or a key player leaving a team, and things seemed a little bit sort of shaky, was probably Jack White at the Raiders, and they're kind of not flying, but soon after they kind of figured things out. So maybe the Dragons will have a slight slump and then get back to, or get to winning ways anyway. The Warriors have looked really good the last couple of weeks. They've been on some decent form. Their away record is pretty solid as well, 4 wins and 3 losses. It's not amazing, but it's positive at least. And bringing in key players like Dylan Walker, Edward Cossey and Tamare Martin, who was huge for them at the start of the season, was really important to their kind of changing culture going forward this season. Has missed a lot of the season, so I can't actually imagine him playing this game unless they feel he's fully fit, or he might even come off the bench as a utility player. That might be how they look at bringing him back in. But I think the Warriors just have a lot of confidence in the minute. The team is going to be incredibly strong this week. I think Ben Hunt will probably play after Game 2 of Origin, but given that it's like as early as possible to return after that game, they might put him on the bench to start with. Maybe even play him as a hooker. I don't know what the Dragons plan to do this week. They might do something completely different. It's just everything with the Dragons just screams disorganisation, or unorganised at the moment. I'm sorry. But the Warriors are full of confidence. They're playing really well. 6th place against 15th. It's easy for me to lean towards the Warriors, and they're just playing outstanding rugby at the minute. So I'm going to go with the Warriors to win 13+. Next up, we have the Dolphins at home against the Eels, and starting with the Dolphins, they're currently in 10th place. Their form is 2 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 4 wins and 3 losses, and they were on a bye last week. In terms of squad availability, they're waiting to see how long Brenko Lee and Jeremy Marshall-King will be out for. They're still to be confirmed at the moment. Sean O'Sullivan and Felice Kafusi are expected to be back this week. Sean O'Sullivan more specifically between this round and next week, so we'll have to see when squads are announced. And they only have Hamiso Tabuai-Fidau to come back from Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 50% win rate, 80% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 87.7%. Moving on to the Parramatta Eels, they currently sit in 8th place on the ladder. Their form is 4 wins in the last 5, but their away record is 3 wins and 4 losses, and they won last time out against the Seagulls. In terms of squad availability, there are no injured players expected back this week, and Mitchell Moses and Junior Barlow are the only players to come back from Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 53% win rate, 74% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 87%. There have been plenty of weeks where I've backed the Dolphins to win, especially in big games. I took them to beat Melbourne Storm a few weeks back. I had them to beat, I think it was the Seagulls a couple of weeks back as well. Like, they've just not really been doing it. They've been struggling. I think Sean O'Sullivan was clearly a key reason for their sort of success. He gave them a really strong kicking game. And, Anthony Milford's done fine. Katoa's been fine. Marshall King's been great. Like, they've been playing well. But we're maybe starting to see, the difficulties in, having less depth throughout the team. when injuries start creeping in. I mean, it's not easy for any team when they start getting injuries and key players missing as well. I get the feeling that Tabuai-Fidow might miss this game. Now, normally teams might panic and want to put someone in. The reason why I don't think Tabuai-Fidow is going to feature in this game is mainly because I think Wayne Bennett will just be of the mindset that we should be competitive anyway, and I'm not panicking, and I don't want to risk one of our key players. Therefore, we'll just leave him out or start him on the bench, maybe. Maybe he'll be in the reserves, we'll see. But to potentially miss out on Jeremy Marshall-King is huge. I think they've still got decent players in the spine that can create. But if we see Sean O'Sullivan and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow in the squad, they could put in a strong performance, especially against an Eels team that has the capabilities this season of being destroyed. However, moving on to the Eels, their form is really good at the moment. They've been playing outstanding. Mitchell Moses has been carrying things, well, not carrying things, but playing above and beyond his usual self the last couple of weeks, which is great to see. I imagine he'll come straight back into the team after State of Origin. He's too important to this Eels team, especially with the missing Dylan Brown, but they kind of made up for that pretty well last week in a really strong statement against the Seagulls. I thought the Seagulls would be fine, but the Eels just blew them out of the water, so well done to them. Just in terms of availability, the Eels are stronger. They're on better form. Their away record is, again, fine. It's a negative away record, but they're just playing really well at the moment. And just the struggles from the Dolphins, I can't see them putting in a win against such an informed team like the Eels at the moment. But they could prove me wrong. I think the Eels will just be too strong. So I'm going to take the Eels to win, but 13 plus. Next up, we have the Panthers at home against the Knights. And starting with the Panthers, they're currently in second place. Their form is 4 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 4 wins and 2 losses. They also lost to the Cowboys last week. In terms of squad availability, Moses Leota is expected to be back this week. And of course, there's no Nathan Cleary for at least another 3 weeks. In terms of players coming back from Origin, that would be Brian Toto, Jerome Luai, Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin, and Stephen Crichton, all to come back. In terms of percentage stats, you have a 64% win rate, 81% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 88.5%. Moving on to the Knights, they currently sit in 14th place on the ladder. Their form is only 2 wins in the last 5, and their away record is 1 win and 5 losses. They also lost last time out against the Roosters. In terms of squad availability, Daniel Saifiti is the only player expected back from injury, and Tyson Frizzell is going to be coming back from Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 36% win rate, 75% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 88.2%. One important thing that I've noticed in the Knights the last couple of weeks is probably Kalen Ponga. I think ever since the squads were announced, he's really taken a big step up, and he's trying to make his case to be selected. He's done that pretty much every single week since the squads came out. But it's kind of been at a point where he's overdoing it, but the rest of the team has kind of lost the edge that they've had. I have taken the Knights to win in some weeks because they found some form, they looked a little bit stronger, they had some fairly decent matchups in terms of squad availability, but they are really starting to struggle now. And Kalen Ponga can only do so much. Needs to see a little bit more from Tyson Gamble, a little bit more from Jackson Hastings, a bit more from Phoenix Crosland, those type of players. Obviously more from everybody, but they do have the potential in the team. Bradman Best, Dayton Gagai, Dominic Young, these kinds of players that can make things happen. Dominic Young is a very talented player, very quick, very clinical when finishing, but the Knights are just kind of struggling at the minute, and their away form is abysmal. But looking at the Panthers, they put in a really strong performance last week against a fairly strong Cowboys team on paper, and the Panthers played pretty well. Given the players who were missing, they played pretty well. So I think they'll take a lot of confidence from their performance. It was an awful way to finish. It was a great game, but for them it was an awful way to finish. But I just think they'll just be too strong. When the players come back from Origin, they'll be too strong. I think in terms of replacing Nathan Cleary, Jack Cogger did a great job last week. So did Jamin Salmon. So either of those guys playing in the number 7 role, I think the Panthers will be confident with and just comfortable. So yeah, they're just a little bit too clinical. Knights haven't really been on it the last couple of weeks. The home form absolutely demolishes the away form of the Knights. And yeah, they're just a better team overall. So I'm going to take the Panthers to win 13+. Next up, we have Storm at home against the Seagulls. And starting with Storm, they currently sit in third place on the ladder. Their form is 4 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 5 wins and 2 losses. They also won last time out against the Tigers. In terms of squad availability, Justin Olam and Christian Welsh are expected back. But in terms of origin players, you have Xavier Coates, Cameron Munster and Harry Grant, who will be back after Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 64% win rate, 80% completion rate and a tackle efficiency of 87.1%. Moving on to the Seagulls, they currently sit in 12th place on the ladder with a form of 2 wins in the last 5 and an away record of 2 wins and 4 losses. They also lost last time out against the Eels. In terms of squad availability, there are no injured players expected to return, but you have Daly Cherry-Evans and Tom Trbojevic, who will be back after Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 43% win rate, 76% completion rate and a tackle efficiency of 87.4%. For me, this is a pretty straightforward game. One team is significantly better than the other. One team's on better form than the other. One team has a better home record compared to away record. One team is just stronger overall with their whole squad. And that's Melbourne Storm, obviously. I don't know with the Seagulls. They're really inconsistent this season. I just don't understand it. Like, they have incredible talent in their squad, but it's just not... It's not working out. It just really isn't working out, and it's too inconsistent. They've got to do something about it. I don't think they'll be doing anything special this week. They could completely prove me wrong. They are that inconsistent. They could just end up doing it. But Melbourne Storm, really good form, great home record, playing well at the minute. They'll be, I believe, pretty much full strength, if I'm not mistaken. So just expecting Olam and Welsh to come back in, and they'll be completely fine. Granted, there's no injuries from Coates, Munster and Grant. They should be full strength, and I imagine it'll be a fairly easy time for them. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Melbourne Storm to win 13+. Next up, we have the Broncos at home against the Titans, and starting with the Broncos, they currently sit in first place on the ladder. Their form is 3 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 4 wins and 3 losses. They're also on a bye last week. In terms of squad availability, Selwyn Cobbo is the only player expected back this week from injury. Then you have Reece Walsh, Patrick Carrigan, Payne Haas, and Thomas Flegler, who will all be back after Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, the Broncos have a 73% win rate, 77% completion rate and a tackle efficiency of 87.5%. Moving on to the Titans, they currently sit in 9th place on the ladder. Their form is 2 wins in the last 5 and their away record is 2 wins and 5 losses. They were also on a bye last week. In terms of squad availability, Kieran Foran is expected back and David Fafita will be back after Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 46% win rate, 77% completion rate and a tackle efficiency of 86.2%. Again, this is another complete mismatch. Like, this is just one team significantly better than the other. One's on better form. One has a better home to away record. Just on paper, one team is better than the other. And that's the Broncos over the Titans. And again, I've backed the Titans a few times when I feel they should have won games or were in a good position to take some wins. But they just haven't done it. Like, they've been too inconsistent. They've got quality in their side. Like, we know that they are capable of pulling out big wins, but they're just too inconsistent at the moment. The Broncos, keep in mind, have actually... I'm trying to think if they've only been on the 1 bye so far. Possibly 2. But they've played more games than other teams around them and are still in first place. When teams on a bye are given 2 points for free, they're still in first place after having less byes than other teams. So that clearly shows that they are the strongest team in the league right now. They do have the capability of collapsing against the stronger teams, which we have seen against the Panthers, the Rabbitohs and Melbourne Storm, for example. But they do normally clean up when they need to, aside from probably the Raiders a few weeks back, which was like just a dead set victory. Didn't even happen. But I think the Broncos, they're playing well. Titans, too inconsistent. For me, this is an easy enough decision, and I'm going to go with the Broncos win 13+. Next up, we have the Rabbitohs at home against the Cowboys. And starting with the Rabbitohs, they're currently in 4th place. Their form is 2 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 3 wins and 3 losses. They were also on a bye last week. In terms of squad availability, Cody Walker is expected to be fit this round, along with Latrell Mitchell. Cameron Murray will also be back after State of Origin, and Keane Kolomatongi is also in the reserves, so he'll be returning. In terms of percentage stats, they have a 60% win rate, 77% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 88.6%. Moving on to the Cowboys, they currently sit in 13th place on the ladder. Their form is 3 wins in the last 5, and their away record is 1 win and 6 losses. Also 1 last time out against the Panthers. In terms of squad availability, there's no word on when Healim Lukey will be back yet, so we'll find out. Valentine Holmes, Murray Tuolangi, Jeremiah Nanai, Ruben Cotter and Reece Robson will all be back after State of Origin. In terms of percentage stats for the Cowboys, they have a 47% win rate, 79% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 86.4%. Again, on paper, this is like another very clear mismatch. Now, I would say that the form of the Rabbitohs has been a little bit dodgy. They've lost games that they really shouldn't have done, and that's maybe cause for concern. Not in the grand scheme of the league, like they're still going to be firmly a top 8 team. This might kind of scupper their chances of being a top 4 team, but it's maybe cause for concern of being the best in the league. The Cowboys will definitely take some confidence from their win last week. Granted, the Panthers were missing a lot of key players, but they still found a way to win, which is the most important thing for any team, regardless of where you are in the league, what the squad is like. The Cowboys found a way to win, so fair play to them. But I don't know. Normally on paper, I'd say that this could be a massive win for the Rabbitohs, but given that the Cowboys still played fairly well last week, they'll take a lot of confidence into this week. I think they can put up a good fight, but I think the Rabbitohs are still too strong, but it won't be a complete blowout because they haven't been great, but they're still stronger. And the Cowboys' away form is abysmal. The Rabbitohs is fine. It's 3-3. So I think it's fair to then sort of suggest that the Rabbitohs will win 1 to 12 points. Finally, for round 17, we have the Roosters at home against the Raiders, and starting with the Roosters, they currently sit in 11th place on the ladder. Their form is 2 wins in the last 5, and their home record is 5 wins and 2 losses. They also won last time out against the Knights. In terms of squad availability, now you have Luke Keary and Satili Tupanua, both expected back either this week or next week. You then have Fletcher Baker and Victor Radley, who are both expected back this week. And then you have Lindsay Collins and James Tedesco back after State of Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats for the Roosters, they have a 50% win rate, 74% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 88.3%. Moving on to the Raiders, they currently sit in 7th place on the ladder. Their form is 3 wins in the last 5, and their away record is 4 wins and 3 losses. They were also on a bye last week. In terms of squad availability, Trey Mooney might be back this week. He's the only player that's listed as expected back. And then you have Hudson Young, who'll be back after State of Origin Game 2. In terms of percentage stats for the Raiders, they have a 57% win rate, 77% completion rate, and a tackle efficiency of 87.9%. For the Roosters, I think they will struggle severely if Luke Keary's not going to be fit this week. If he is, they have a chance, but if he's out, it's going to be a real struggle. And of course, they'll hope that James Tedesco comes back fit and Lindsay Collins, they'll be big players. Fletcher Baker and Victor Radley will be huge inclusions in the team. But form isn't great. Home form is actually fantastic at the moment, but Raiders form is only 1 game better. Away form is fine. Roosters weren't great against the Knights. I don't know. I think the Raiders have been a better team this season, so I think it's fair to lean towards them. On paper, less question marks over the starting team. At worst, they'll not have Trey Mooney, who's not even a regular, and at worst, they won't have Hudson Young, who, not to talk him down, but, you know, one player can be replaced, and it's a second row. It's not a key spine position. Not to talk down his profession, of course, but at worst, the Raiders would still be in a better position than the Roosters, even if all their players were back and completely fine. So I think it's fair to lean towards the Raiders, but I think they have been a little bit dodgy, and the Roosters still kind of... It's such a weird thing to say. The Roosters still kind of have that like delusional confidence. Not to say that they're delusional, but it's like week to week, there's not much confidence in them, but they just sort of go out because they're the Roosters and they've got good players on paper that they just put in a good performance anyway, or at least an okay performance. Like, they're the Roosters. On paper, they're a strong squad, like, really strong. So, I'll always back them to put points on the board, but the Raiders have just been a better team, so I'll lean towards the Raiders. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with the Raiders to win 1 to 12 points. So to recap my round 17 predictions, I'm going to go with the Warriors, Eels, Panthers, Storm and Broncos, all to win 13 plus, and I'm going to take the Rabbitohs and the Raiders to win 1 to 12 points. In terms of winners' confidence, I'm at about 95%. I'm very confident in the winners for this round, and in terms of the winning margins, I'm at about 75% confidence. I think a lot of these games could be blowouts, but of course, this season has been a little bit wild, so you never know. We will see. So that's going to be it for this video. If you have any predictions for round 17, let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know how you got on last week. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.